Hello and welcome to the Buckets and Tea NBA show. I'm your host, Catherine Niker. Thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode. Joining me today, she is the host and producer of Homestand Sports. It's Noor Zainab. How are you?
I'm good, Catherine. Thanks so much for having me. I can't wait this is the best time to talk basketball and Raptors
Yeah.
basketball.
Yeah, I mean, we've obviously had a very kind of historic week here trading Pascal Siakam. We're going to get into all of it. But first, I've just ordered on Uber Eats the Siakam Swirl McFlurry. I'm going to open this here for our YouTube audience.
We need an unboxing, an
Yeah, getting the
unpacking.
official unboxing. I only ordered the McFlurry. I only ordered it snack size. It ended up costing me just under $13.
Right, Uber Eats,
Because of the
man.
fees.
Oh,
And we were just saying, before we started recording, oh, it's a little cute Raptors cup.
it's so cute. It's like a puppuccino size almost.
Yeah.
It's like that small, but it's cute.
Yeah, we were saying I should have ordered more. Like I could have gotten a whole combo and saved myself on the fees, but this alone is like 500 calories. And for context, that's the size of my hand. This is the size of my hand, and this is the size of
That's crazy. It's gonna taste good though.
Yeah, I'm excited to try this. I'm not gonna eat it the whole podcast, everyone. Just FYI, I'm just gonna have this one bite, and then I'll let it slowly melt while we finish the episode, and then I'll enjoy the rest of it later. It's like that's what it looks like in the inside. I don't know if we can see here.
Is it like strawberry?
Oh my god, I'm so glad that ice cream didn't fall on my thing. It's red on my laptop. It's like red Smarties.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, what's the flavor? So Smartie McFlurry-ish, eh?
It's red Smarties and it's crunchy and like a fudge swirl.
Oh, this is like ASMR, Catherine. The crunch.
It's good. It's really good.
I'm tingling in the brain. I'm like, is it bedtime?
You know what? It's really good.
Cute.
It's very sweet. It's very Smartie forward. What am I on Iron Chef? What am I on Iron Chef? The way I'm describing this, it's got notes of.
You're our food critic.
Yeah, I'm the food critic.
And you said it was like they're selling it out as well, right?
Yeah, so I tried. I was gonna order it on Skip the Dishes, and then it said sold out, and then I ordered it off of Uber Eats. I don't know if it was just sold out for today because everyone was buying it, or if it's like sold out. So no one's paying me for this promotion. I just really wanted to try it. Yeah, it's good. It's very Smartie forward. At least my first bite was. I don't know. Maybe they'll do this again with like Scotty or something. The cup is really cute. I like the cup.
Yeah, it is really cute. I love the little basketball too. Yeah, very cute. I mean, now you got RJ Barrett for Osmos, so maybe we'll have to do like an Osmos unboxing or something.
Do you think RJ like fully came to Toronto being like, yo, I'm the next Osmos Raptor? Like move aside, Norm Powell.
Because like Catherine, you gotta wonder if you're coming to Toronto, who are you going to want to have as a sponsor? Like what else is there outside of Osmos that is like really Toronto that you like associate with Toronto too? Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, and I think it's Osmos.
Yeah, because you're not gonna be like, hey, Emmanuel, quickly, have you thought about getting a domain name on GoDaddy? Like that's like that's not the open gym clip, Or even like, have you tried this Gillette, like this smooth?
What about
that little hand gesture they always do for the smooth shave?
Oh my god, OGs was the worst, but the best. Worst, but the best. Gillette commercials are fantastic. But no, I think it fits. And he's Saga's very own as well. Like Saga is known for their shawarma and their Osmos. So
I'm surprised, because he is Mississauga, he could have gone Paramount.
That's true too.
Because isn't Paramount's from Mississauga? Osmos, I think is from Toronto. I can't confirm
really.
That.
Is
Osmos
I have
also from Mississauga? Could be.
I'm under the impression that it might be. I think it originated in the GTA for sure. I'm not sure if it was Saga itself, but it must be Saga. Like, if there's Laziz and Osmos that I knew of, we're having shawarma offs right now. Just thinking about it.
That's
I'm
our
like,
next
which
taste
came
test.
first?
That's our next
Yeah,
taste test.
which came first? But I don't know, we'll ask RJ. RJ pretty much knows everything about the Osmos industry at this point, so maybe he'll have
That's
answers
so
for us.
funny. I mean, to me, it's like it's Osmos for convenience, but
Yeah,
Paramount is
100%.
like really good.
No, Paramount's fantastic. Osmos I haven't had. I'm not gonna. Can I slander? You guys aren't sponsored by like Osmos or anything,
I'm
right?
not sponsored by anyone. In the name
Fantastic.
of EJ, this whole
Okay,
podcast is
fantastic.
unsullied by sponsor.
Okay, we will just remove like some footage after if we need to, but for now we can say whatever. Osmos is trash. Osmos, I'm not sure what RJ's on. I'm not sure what he's
Wow.
having in New York. Maybe the shawarma industry isn't that booming in New York that you miss
You
Osmos of all
think New
places.
York would have good shawarma, but maybe not.
You would. I think of all places, like if you think about the states, which state would have the best shawarma? New
Yeah,
York,
you
in
go
my
New
opinion.
York.
Yeah, right? But then you gotta wonder, New York versus Toronto.
No, Toronto's probably better.
Yeah,
And you know what?
Toronto has
Montreal, better bagels. Sorry, New York.
that's true. Actually, you know what? Also, I used to live in Ottawa. I did my university there. Not gonna lie, they might have the best shawarma.
Yeah,
Ottawa,
I've
and
heard
they
that
don't
about
have
Ottawa. I've heard that about Ottawa.
and Ottawa's not like they don't have like, your Lizzie's, your Osmos. They're not here with their franchise chains and stuff. They just have their mom and pop shops, and every single one you go to, you get it for under. I remember I used to order a $15 plate in the morning during my exams, and that will last me until dinner because it came
Wow.
with a huge plate of rice, salad, tons of chicken, pita, garlic, potatoes, and you're just munching on it all day. And it costs you $15. Nowadays, you go to Osmos and you'll get maybe a salad for $20. So
Honestly, for a second there, I thought you were gonna go full Alibaba, but you didn't. You went mom and pop chain, Ottawa. I appreciate it. Listen, I'm pretty sure we're just subconsciously killing time because of the inevitable. We should probably jump into some basketball talk here. Well, 7 minutes into the podcast, maybe we should talk about basketball.
Oh, no
Listen,
problem.
everybody knows Pascal Siakam has officially been traded to the Indiana Pacers. We're recording this Thursday, early evening around 4 o'clock. You're gonna, for the YouTube viewers, you're gonna see the background slowly go from sunny to dark here, in my apartment at least, as the hour
Yeah, mine
progresses. But
too.
yeah, we had the whole shock and official confirmation of the news yesterday. We saw Masai Ujiri's press conference today. Highly recommend, because assuming, Raptors are public people, we're all pretty diehards. Really recommend watching this press conference in full. He had a lot to say. He was emotional at one point, like very visibly emotional at one point. I mean, I know that's going around on Twitter, but it's nice to see the whole context of the situation too. But yeah, this was an emotional trade for the franchise. Let's talk about the trade itself first, and then we'll get into the Masai stuff. How do you feel about this deal, Nor?
It's tough. Because if you look at it just from the Raptors' point of view, I think it's really underwhelming. It's almost disappointing because of what you're getting back for a guy like Pascal Siakam. And I just want to kind of compare it to OG Anunoby, right? Where
Mhm.
he was in the same position as Pascal, where they were both in the rumors all year long. And maybe OG was treated a little bit better by the front office. We don't know those things. So I'm not gonna speculate on that as well. But what you got for OG Anunoby was I mean, I think that was, I don't wanna say it was an overkill, but it was a lot. You got a
Yeah.
ton of offense back for him. RJ and IQ put together gave you more offense with OG, Malachi, and Precious put together. And already you're seeing how well that looks for your offense. So I was so happy with what we got from for OG. And at the same time, I was like, OG is not the player that Pascal is. So the fact that you're able to get RJ and IQ back for OG, I just couldn't fathom only getting 3 first-round picks back for Pascal and then Bruce Brown, which I know to an average fan, anybody out there gonna be like, 3 first round, that's amazing, like, that's your future, you're set for life now, it's fantastic. But how often are those picks gonna amount to something? And we know our scouting department, like, I trust them. They were the same guys that drafted Pascal, Fred VanVleet, OG, even Scotty, like everybody.
Mhm,
But at
mhm.
the same time, we've heard rumors that this is not the best draft class either. And it's just banking a lot on the unknown. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's tough. It's at the same time too. We don't know after Masai's conference. Like we talked about this before too. I was ready to be like, front office is the problem. Like we got to talk about this. They had a full year, and then Masai gets on and gets personable and charismatic, and you like him again, and then you're like, and then the other part of it too. I think which a lot of people haven't discussed, and again, it's because these people are never on camera, they never have to answer questions, is our Messiah's bosses, right? I'm sure he was
Mhm.
under a lot of pressure from the MLSC, from his own ownership in winning. And there's the fact for me always was that the past couple years, when after the Raptors had ended their championship run, it was very obvious that they have to go towards a rebuild route and just find something new. And I think Masai wanted that because Masai had told people prior that he wants a blank slate. Like he wants to work with something new and he wants to make a product of his own. And I don't think he would be able to do that with the Raptors because the ownership is going to want a product that's going to give them profit. And a rebuilding product is just not going to give them profit like that. So
Yeah.
you got to think about those things behind the scenes as well.
I mean, I think you made a lot of great points there. I mean, first, initial reactions to the trade itself, I agree. I do think it is a bit underwhelming. 3 first round draft picks, they do sound good, but they are all projected to be, I would say, in the teens. Like
Yeah.
the odds of any of those picks becoming a top 10 would be quite rare. So you just don't know who you're going to get when you're, outside of that, frankly, really outside of the top 5. And even then it's like the draft is always a bit of a crapshoot. And that's why, so many podcasts will like redraft different years and different things like that. Cause it is hard to get it right. I do feel like in some respects, and Masai didn't say this, but it's kind of like the old Fred VanVleet, like bet on yourself kind of thing, right? In a lot of ways, I feel this deal is right. Like he's betting that he can either find the right people, diamonds in the
Mhm.
rough, so to speak, just like Pascal was and Fred was and Norm and so many of our other players that have done great things. Or that he could trade them, right? That he could trade these picks for something else in return that will be valuable to us right away. So yeah, I do feel like in some respects this is a bet on yourself situation. I want to know what you think. This is how I feel. I want to know if you agree or not.
Mhm.
That I feel like this trade happened yesterday or on Wednesday because I feel like the Raptors were losing leverage. Like, I think there's a reason this didn't happen on trade deadline day, and I think that's because they were losing leverage by the day, and that's why it had to happen now, otherwise there would be even less of a return.
I completely agree. I think actually they were losing leverage since last trade deadline. And
Right.
if you look at it now, I think this is the best offer available in January 2024. But if you look back for the year when Siakam was in the trade rumor mill constantly, week after week, there was definitely something better at that point. And I think the Raptors might have even last summer, prior to Fred VanVleet walking, I think they were kind of baking on themselves to either keep this core together and give them one last push, or um, I don't know, just like seeing what would happen, beyond the trade deadline in the offseason, as Masai had mentioned before, where he was like, trade deadline is not where all the stuff happens, it's also the offseason. So I
Yeah.
think they were banking on that. And then when they saw Fred walk, I don't know if they were expecting it. Maybe they thought he might sign. Maybe they thought that maybe they had an understanding. I'm not too sure. But I think watching him walk and then watching him walk for free, like he just left and we
Yeah.
got absolutely nothing back, it really maybe gave them a shock that, okay, well, we've got two guys now who are expiring next year in OG and Pascal. We got to make things happen like that. At this point, no matter what it is, we have to do it. And again, I'm not sure what stopped them in the summer. I'm not sure what happened all year. And I think at that point, maybe they're looking for players because it seemed like they were prioritizing players even for OG, like getting RJ, getting IQ back. It seemed like they were pushing to be in that rebuild, but also have people next to Scotty immediately who they can see as talent, not to go and draft the talent.
Mhm.
But Siakam, I think, was going to be obviously your best bet, if not to get talent, then to get tons of picks for the future and see what happens. And again, like you mentioned, like there's so much risk involved with that. But if there's one front office that I would trust to give us the proper, scouting department and get us the proper picks, it would be the Raptors.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's interesting because, this time last year, I had this feeling that, like, this team isn't working out. This isn't working. I think we all felt that frustration a year ago, but I wasn't pro blowing it up, right? And I feel like it's more in hindsight that I feel like, "Oh, we should have done these moves a year ago," than I actually felt this time a year ago. And I have to own that because 'cause I'm on the record. I do this podcast every week, right? Like, I can't just sit here and act like, "Oh, I was saying this, blah, blah, blah." Like, no, I wasn't,
There's
right?
receipts, yeah.
There's receipts. There's too many receipts, deep in the archives here. So, I can't sit here and pretend that that's what I thought. But yeah, like they said they didn't want draft picks. They could have gotten rumored that they could have gotten 3 first round draft picks for OG last year.
Yeah.
Very happy with how this trade has worked out now that it's done. But it was just interesting to me that they got 3 first round draft picks for Siakam after it was said that that's not what they wanted. So that was kind of like one thing that I didn't feel was like totally addressed in like the Masai press conference today. Um, at least not that specifically. Like he kind of yeah, I mean, I guess we could segue to that. Like he sort of alluded to like, these decisions were really hard and if you want to say these are mistakes, fine, but like this isn't how we feel or how we felt at the time. And it was very interesting. I mean, there were a lot of points there. I'm rambling. I'm sorry. No,
Oh, no, no, please continue. I love hearing you talk.
no, I
Keep going.
appreciate it. No, it's just like it was. Yesterday I was like, I don't love this trade. Um, this was the best we could do. I kind of assumed we would be trading Bruce Brown right away. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be, surprised. Sorry, my ringer was on for the Uber Eats. I never do that. That could still happen. Like, I wouldn't be surprised, like he said, Masai said there's definitely more trades that could happen between now and the end of the trade deadline. I would suspect Boucher is a part of that. That would be my first guess. I would maybe even Jakob Poeltl.
Yeah.
Age-wise, they're on a different timeline.
Yep.
And if we're going younger, I feel like those guys would be next. Thaddeus Young, Otto Porter, Garrett Temple. I don't know what trade value they would have at this point. So I think those are going to be our quote unquote veterans of this team that stay on our bench and hopefully they play. Like why aren't these guys playing? I don't know. Anyways, that's a whole other thing. Like to me, I'm like, can we just play Otto Porter Jr.? It's probably his last year in the NBA. Like just play the guy. Just play him. Anyway. But yeah, like I just think like, yeah, there's probably more trades to happen. But today was the day I felt more sentimental, weirdly enough. And I think the Masai
Yeah.
press conference had a lot to do with that. Thoughts?
Yeah, no, I
Today's a
completely agree.
rambling day.
Girl, same here. Completely same here. It's so tough too because you know what? Like as we said, we're looking at it from the Raptors' point of view, and you're like, okay, we know Pascal Siakam, we know how good he is, we know what he can get us. Like this is kind of undervaluing what who he is as a player. So, and in that way, we're completely justified to feel that way. But I was thinking about it. I'm like, if you look at the side of the Pacers though, and maybe any other team out there who would have wanted to get Pascal Siakam on their roster, the thing that was holding them back was obviously the fact that he was in rumors all year long. So you're thinking,
Mhm.
like, what kind of a guy is he in the locker room? Like, is he a good leader? Like, how can he provide help to a team? And I would blame the front office there entirely because they helped bring his value down. So they're kind of reaping the rewards of what they sowed, and it's not his fault. But on the other side as well, I think if there was truth to the rumors that Pascal's agent had told teams such as the Hawks that he would not be re-signing with them, then if you look at the Pacers, who are a very young team, they have Tyrese Halliburton, who's their rising star. They have
Mhm.
him surrounded by all these young guys in Walker, in Matherin, in Nembhard, Miles Turner being one of their best centers. You wonder, like, they're kind of they're banking in on this year being the one with Pascal Siakam because they gave up 3 first-round picks that could have gone towards their future.
Mhm.
And that could have helped build this young team next to Tyrese Halliburton, but Siakam doesn't really fit the timeline of that team either. I think he fits the team super well, but the team is kind of
Mm.
very young. And he's still, again, like, they're super lucky that he's not the average, late 20-year-old. Like, he's fast, he's agile, he can move around, he can cover the court. Like, he's so good with that, so he can keep up with the likes of Tyrese, Mathurin, no problem. But at the same time, you're like, if you're the Pacers, you're thinking, okay, I'm gonna give up 3 first-round picks. You better not be a 3-month rental. So to us, doesn't sound like much, but to a team like them, it still might be a lot because they're young, and 3 first-round picks to that, to, again, who might be a rental. I'm assuming at this point that there's some level of, like, I don't know, agreement that yes, Siakam will sign in the offseason. Siakam will be there. They have a good rapport with Tyrese Halliburton and stuff. So maybe that there is some level of indication that there is a future brewing for both of them. But there's no certainty. And because of that, you're like, maybe the Pacers also are in a spot where, what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. It would be huge for them if he left, like, that would be brutal. But, sometimes I'm always surprised to learn that, like, certain players are friends. Like, I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
when did Tyrese
Tyrese
Halliburton
and
and
Pascal.
Pascal Siakam become friends? Like, when did that happen? Like,
I'm like, you
what
guys don't post
Cancun
like
resort were
stories
they
and stuff.
hanging out at?"
Yeah.
Like, when did that happen? Like,
I'm like, I haven't seen them in their photo dumps on Instagram. What? I mean, I guess they don't really have to show
yeah.
everything, every part of their life, but still,
Yeah, it
it's
was
a
like
little bit
when
obvious.
Kyle Lowry and Jimmy Butler were like, "Oh, we're, like, really close friends, and I wanna go
I'm like,
play." It was
what?
like, "Oh, yeah, like, when?" Like, "Cool, but
Yeah.
when?" You know?
You what?
Like, what did that,
Yeah.
like, what did I consume so much NBA content, I'm like, "What did I miss?" But
Literally, it
yeah,
was. I was dumbfounded.
I think the odds of him siding with them are good. I mean, that was the whole thing with Sacramento, right? Like Sacramento had rumors for wanting to trade for him, but then they found out that he wasn't likely to re-sign, so they backed out of that deal. Um, so yeah, I think from the Pacers side of things, this looks really good. And in terms of like, what you're mentioning age and timeline, I think, Halliburton has like leaped forward in ways that they didn't necessarily expect to happen this
Yeah.
fast. So the fact that it has happened this fast, they're just immediately doubling down on it, and I like that. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
like
that's
that
for
they're
sure.
just going for it because I think, like, we have our top teams in the East, but I don't think anything is a foregone conclusion, and
No,
if the
no.
if the bracket breaks right for you, you can make a deep run, and I'm
Yeah,
really excited for them, and I'm actually really excited for New York also, and
I'm
I
excited.
haven't said that in a
Yeah.
really long time.
I know. I was telling my friends, I was like, yeah, you know what? Like, I got the Pacers now, I got the Knicks now. I'm still a Kawhi Norm girl, so I still like the Clippers as well. So I'm like, yeah, I got a bunch of teams out there, and they're like Knicks, New York, like
So
James Dolan's Knicks, and I'm like, OG Anunoby, what the hell do you want me to do? Not support him?
So you're a Clippers fan? Because I was, like, really in my feelings yesterday and today, and I was thinking about this. I was thinking about, like the Clippers, this is totally off topic from our thing, but, like, the Clippers have their best chance to win a championship this year,
Mhm.
maybe ever, maybe ever. This year is their best shot, I think. You
Take
know
a shot every time you've said that though about the Clippers. That this year could be the year. This year
no.
is the year they could have put it together.
In the Chris Paul, Blake Griffin years, I didn't think they would go all the way.
No?
No.
Oh. I maybe I was just like a Chris Paul apologizer, and I love Blake Griffin anyway, so I just had to go.
I thought they were a really fun team, but I never
Yeah,
considered them like a potential favorite.
yeah.
But, they figured out this whole James Harden thing and they look really good. I was trying to figure out, would I be happy if they won a championship? You would be happy.
Personally,
I was
yeah.
legit I was in my feelings as a Raptors fan, and I was trying to figure this out. Would I be happy if they won a championship? And it was like it was a lot of mixed emotions for me. It wasn't a straight yes.
You haven't got an answer yet? You don't know. You still don't know.
Well, it's only my fault that I'm bitter, right? Like, it's no one else's, like, when Kawhi left, I was very like, he doesn't owe us anything, blah, blah, blah. But I was also like, if you stayed, we would have repeated. We would have gone
Yeah.
back to back, blah, blah, blah. Firmly believe that, I'd be
Always.
happy for Norm.
Yeah. Like my I know it's a tough spot because I think the Clippers for me always, especially Steve Ballmer, they've always just been a spot where I'm like, it's easy to hate. It's really easy to not like, almost like the Boston Celtics, like they've always just kind of been like that where you're like, yeah, just it's you don't like them. There's just a team that you just don't like. And their Clippers were always irrelevant because they were like little bros of like the Lakers and stuff, right? So you just never really cared about them either. But I was always a Kawhi fan. Like I was a Kawhi fan prior to the Raptors when he was with the
Okay.
Spurs and when he was like a defense guy. He was right under Tim Duncan, and I remember his early days when he could barely shoot, and he was just there to be like the defender on the floor. To the point where my first I got my cat 8 years ago, and I named him Kawhi, and he was still with the Spurs
Aww.
at that point. Yeah, and actually a year later, Kawhi came to the Raptors, and I was like, "Did I do this? Like, am I a
You
witch?
did
Did
do
I?"
that. That is you. That isn't Masai at all. That
Huh. I'm like that. I'm like, I think I put it in the universe and something brought it together. I'm like, I don't thank me, but like thank me. I think I did. I had parts in it. So I always was a Kawhi fan, and getting him here, the way we lost Demar was such a hard pill to swallow because
Mm,
as Kawhi's biggest fan, and as someone who loved Demar but knew that Demar might not be the guy to take us over the hump, it still was a very bittersweet pill to swallow to be like, shit, I gotta say goodbye to DeMar. And then I gotta welcome my new guy, and he might be leaving here a year later, might not even play because he hasn't played a year. So it was super tough. And anyway, now I'm rambling. Fast forward to now, I just have always loved Kawhi, so I couldn't let that go. I love Norm. Norm was my favorite. Whenever I want to cry, I look at his Players Tribune letter, and I
mm.
immediately just tear up. And Paul George, I used to not like him, and recently I come around as well. And the whole team itself, I think it just made sense to me because they had a plethora of shooters, but they also had guys who could defend super well. Like you have two of the best defenders in the league in Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Like they're defensive player of the years, which is just crazy to say a 2-on-1 team. And for me, I just thought that they were missing a point guard, a ball handler, someone that could pass first. And when James Harden became available, people were all like, no, 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 no. Like, we don't want him. I don't want him here. I don't want him there. And I get it. Like he's a bit of a culture mesh. It takes a little while for him to come along with your team. But in
With
terms of the
Harden, you mean?
court presence with
Yeah.
Harden, yeah, like locker room stuff, like I understand that.
Did we
You
ever
might not
figure
want him
out
there.
what LCBO he's gonna be signing autographs at?
I don't think so. I don't think he ever specified. We're just gonna have
Alright.
to go to every single one. I don't know. Have a do we have enough people at
I
RR
hope to
to
I
go
hope to
and
God he's at
to
a
take out?
LCBO in, like, Hamilton or something, like, just something so far.
Imagine he goes to like Barry LCBO.
Yeah, he's at the Barry LCBO, and everyone's like, "Who is this guy?"
Yeah, I'm like, excuse me, are you a hockey player? No. But I just thought like he's always been such a good pass first guy. And just him plugging in with Kawhi and Paul George with guys who are so efficient, they always get their shots off. It's perfect. I
Yeah,
don't know.
and with
I
Westbrook
can't call
too,
him.
that Westbrook, if he won a championship, that would be one of the more unique NBA legacies, truly.
Yeah.
Like, his career
Super
would
very
be
good.
very, very unique. Um, yeah, I agree. All right, if the fans tell me to, like, suck it up and stop being, whatever, whatever, then, like, I will. I will. I'll
But
have a
you're
whole
allowed to. I completely
I'll
get it.
no,
You're allowed
no.
to.
No, it's important to let go.
No.
It's important to let go. All right, we got sidetracked here, and that's completely my fault. Do you have anything else that you want to say about the Masai presser or anything that's happened in the last, slightly over 24 hours here?
You know what? No, I think the thing with Masai is again, all I'll say is it sucks that we got to hear, but at the same time, he also has a boss. Got to remember that. And every time he speaks to the media, you just kind of get a softer spot for him. So I, it sucks for how we got here, but I forgive him. Is
Yeah,
all I can say.
I agree. Like, you can look back at it and say, like, okay, like, mistakes were made, but
Yeah,
considering considering mistakes were made, we're not in like a dire straits, situation as a franchise. You know what I mean? Like with other franchises, like GMs make mistakes and they end up paying for it for like the next 5 to 10 years. We are
Yeah,
still in
absolutely.
a good position, even in a quote unquote rebuild, where we're not going to be like at the bottom of the NBA for multiple seasons, or
Look
maybe a
at last
couple of years,
night.
but not like, you know what I mean? Not like the tanking, like we're
Yeah.
going to be the worst team in the league for at least the next 5 years kind of situation. Like a lot of teams are, and I think there's a lot of reasons to be hopeful. And I appreciate Masai for showing us a more, human side to all of this, because I
Yeah.
don't think a lot of people would. Let's move on. Let's talk about just quickly. I want to mention, obviously, sad news in the NBA. Warriors assistant coach, Dejan Milojević, I think that's how I pronounce his name. I hope I got that right. Passed away from a heart attack that he suffered during a team dinner. Only 46 years old, survived by his wife and kids. Really, really sad stuff here. I mean, it was shocking to learn. This isn't somebody I particularly knew a lot about, but certainly shocking to hear a 46-year-old, died of a heart attack. Like, that's really young. The fact that it happened in front of the whole team, just from a NBA perspective, is like really shocking and
Mhm.
horrible for them. I mean, it's horrible for his family first and foremost, but yeah, really, really, sad stuff there. Darko talked about him and their relationship and how they've known each other since their teenage years, growing up in Serbia and being part of the basketball community. He drew up a play at the start of yesterday's game as a tribute to him. It was his play, which I thought was really touching and really fitting. I thought that was a very appropriate tribute there. Yeah, Nora, I just felt like it was, something to note here because it's like really significant and quite shocking.
No, super shocking. It was just it was out of nowhere. I remember the notification at first, and it was just like he had been taken to the hospital and people were still with him, and we don't know the details just yet, so not sure what had actually transpired, and you weren't thinking this, but you were just hoping for the best at that point because you're 46 years old, he's young, like he team dinner, like what could have happened at a place where you're surrounded by everybody else, and just yeah, to hear that and to hear how it happened, I have so much empathy and sympathy for his family, and having to your team having to watch that as well. I feel for the Warriors and everything too, and I hope that they can just take the day. Like, are they gonna have to play? I'm not sure what the schedule is like, but
Yeah,
if
they
they just have to
postponed the
square up.
Jazz game, but I don't know about games past that. Let me just Google that real quickly.
Yeah, no
Um
worries at all. I'll look it up
oh,
as
their
well.
game against the Mavericks has also been postponed.
Okay, that's good.
So that
That's
is
good.
good. So their next scheduled game is
Yeah.
Wednesday the 24th. Good. So they're having some time to grieve there, which is important, and that's good of the league to do that because that's
Yeah.
such a wild scenario. Yeah, like I was saying last week on this pod, I was talking to our friend Katie Heindel, and she was just like, I was saying to Katie, I was like, this is the most chaotic season, Warrior speaking, I've ever seen. Like, I've never seen a team go through this much adversity in one season. And now to go through this on top of that, really feel for them. Like, it's just, who knows? Like, not that it's the most important topic of discussion, like how they're going to bounce back from this or anything like that. But glad that they're given time to grieve. I actually, if anyone's needed a week off, it's this team. Like, I
Oh,
feel like this team
100%.
needs it, and hopefully, they're able to come back, stronger together and all that stuff. But yeah, obviously, our hearts go out to his family and everything. I just had to mention it because it was just such a shocking and sad thing that happened in the NBA. Okay, let's move on. I want to talk to you a bit about, as this trade deadline approaches. Um Lots of teams who are in a state of frustration, as the Raptors fans have been feeling, right? Like we talked about the Warriors, there's the Hawks, the Bulls, Lakers fans are perpetually frustrated no matter what's happening unless they're celebrating a championship. Is there a team that outside of the Raptors, this is us finally talking about the NBA here, which we usually do at the top of the podcast, but the Pascal news is obviously the biggest news. What do you feel like there is a team outside the Raptors that absolutely 100% needs to make a move before the trade deadline?
I think probably two teams, I would say, to be honest, one in the East, one in the West. You mentioned both of them. In the East, I
Mm,
want to say the Bulls. The Bulls
mm,
have been this team ever since DeMar got traded there. And they've just been in this limbo of not even a good playoff team, just at the cusp of a playoff team, but never making it over the hump. And then last year, of course, we were the reason why they made it up there and didn't really amount to much afterwards as well. And it sucks because you have a ton of talent around you. We know what DeMar DeRozan can do. You have Zach LaVine there, and there's been tons of rumors about Zach LaVine not being happy and DeMar not being happy. So um, I, I've been a big believer in a locker room making your court performance better.
mm.
If you look around the league, if you look at wherever Kevin Durant has gone or Kyrie Irving has gone, I think your locker room has to say a lot more than just your stat sheet does, or just something your roster does. Sorry. So I think in terms of them being unhappy, that should have been taken care of a while ago, and that is kind of
Right.
trickling on the court. They're not really able to put good performances together. They don't have the help that they do, but at the same time, I think the trust factor for that team is just not there anymore. And this team has been overdue a trade, kind of like the Raptors, for a year. And they need to make a move at this point because they really are at a standstill. They're legit. I think when I think of middle, I think Chicago Bulls. I
Yeah.
think right in the middle is the Chicago Bulls. And to me, it's the worst spot to be because you're not getting better, but you're not getting worse. And and year after year is the same thing over and over with them. So I'm not sure if the answer is to get rid of LaVine, to get rid of both, and maybe go younger, or to bring in more help for DeRozan or LaVine, like one or the other. To pick one, I'm not sure what the answer there is, but something has to be done. It's been way too long for the Bulls to be at this position now.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like, as great as DeMar is, I do feel like, you know, and I don't think this is controversial to say, he would be the second or third best player on a championship team. Right?
Maybe, yeah.
And I think, the Bulls tried this experiment. It was worth trying. It was absolutely worth trying. I don't think they should have regrets, but it hasn't worked. I really want to see DeMar traded to a championship contender.
Yeah.
We haven't seen DeMar make a significant playoff run since he was with the Raptors.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
since then, we've at least seen him in the regular season get better at hitting clutch shots.
Hmm.
Right, and he continues to improve his overall game. He's got a really high IQ. I think he would be so valuable on a team that's really making a run. Like the Heat, it would be incredible to see him. Well, there's rumors that they're trying to trade Kyle. We'll get into that. But
Yeah.
there's rumors that they're trying to trade Kyle. That would be so funny if they both got traded and they didn't end up playing together. But I think for the Bulls, similar to the Raptors, I think it's time for them to go young. And
Yeah.
to me, that would be the move. LaVine is worth trading, but his contract is so high. It was like the
Yeah.
Westbrook contract. It's so hard to move. Um, but I think DeMar would be for them worth moving on from, as great of a player as he is. And I feel like personality wise and skill wise, he's probably the player you would rather keep. But I think from an age perspective and stuff, yeah, I would love to see DeMar on a team like the Heat or I don't know what other team. I don't think the Warriors have the right combination of things to trade, which is actually why I don't think they were able to make the Siakam trade work. I got out the little trade machine once, and I was trying to experiment how they could trade for Siakam because I was like, how do I save the Warriors? I got caught up in that. And it didn't, the math was not mathing. It really was
I still don't get it. I'm like, you guys are the experts. You guys figure it out. I'm just gonna think about it and see what happens, and I'll imagine it. I don't have the
yeah, the
capability to
math
be like,
was
oh, what's
not
the math?
the trade
No.
machine makes it really easy. So you don't have to I have to say
Math it
that
out.
the Fanspo trade machine makes it really easy. But
Okay, gotcha.
yeah, but anyway, yeah, I would love to see DeMar on a team. I absolutely agree. The Hawks are a real like head scratcher for me.
Yeah, I don't get
Everyone
them
predicted them
either.
to be better this year. They just traded for DeJounte Murray only last year. Are they going to trade him again? Like, maybe. Like at this point, I don't know what they could do to salvage the Trae Young era. I don't know if they're like, I don't know if Trae Young is someone who's going to
I
stay
don't know
necessarily.
what went wrong because Trae Young alone with that team was doing so much damage. Like the city of
Mhm.
Philadelphia was scared at the sight of Trae Young. That was
Yes.
nuts. And now you're looking at this team and they can barely string together more than one win, really, if anything. They're 10th in the conference. They're probably gonna fall even lower. 723, 17-23 on the season. And I don't get it because for me, when the trade first happened for Dejounte Murray to the Atlanta Hawks, it just made sense. You're like 2 young guys.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
also fit the timeline so well together, and it makes sense because they were supposed to be like the next big team in the East, and I'm not sure I don't think it's a talent thing because they're both just so talented. You saw Dejounte Murray at the Spurs. We know what Trae Young can do, so there's tons of talent there. But I do wonder if there's, again, like a personality clash, right? A locker room issue because the reason why DeJounte Murray was traded from the Spurs was because of his personality. I think more of an attitude problem, really, too. And he wasn't really getting along in the locker room.
Oh, I thought they
And
just traded him so they could tank for Wemby.
I
Well,
think
maybe a
they
little from
probably
column
would
A, a
have.
little from column B. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be because at the same time too, I'm like, you could get Wemby because Dejounte Murray is not gonna win you games like that. He's just gonna help you, he's not
Yeah.
gonna be the guy to be like, "Yeah, we're not getting Wemby because of me." Like, you're probably gonna get Wemby with Dejounte Murray on your roster. But I think I would just remember, I forget, I'm gonna have to look this up, maybe I'll find this afterwards, but there was friction in the locker room with Dejounte Murray there, and that's why he got traded, and supposed to be a big thing, supposed to work out. I remember prior to that also though, Trae Young and the Hawks weren't getting along also. He was having problems with the coaching staff. And I think again, like I wonder if it's just a locker room issue, but those things I don't know, because you look at a roster, and again, the same thing with the Bulls, where you're like, there's tons of talent. There's so much that you could be doing with all of this, but there's nothing's really amounting to anything. And then I look at the Warriors, like in the West, because you got to talk about the Warriors. The fall
Mhm.
from grace we haven't seen, maybe unless you're the Raptors. But again, we weren't a dynasty. They were a dynasty, and
Mhm.
them to get to where they are now, Steve Kerr probably needs like a Xanny every single night to go to bed. I feel so bad for him. And like
Yeah.
you got Steph Curry, who's like the only really playable dude night after night on that team. Klay Thompson himself came out and said that his body is not what it used to be anymore. Like he's not the splash brother that we know him to be. And there might come a point that he might be retiring soon. And the fact that he's thinking of retiring right now, like that's in his mind shows you
Yeah,
that
he
he's
talked
not the
about this being the last phase of his career. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm like, if that's what he's thinking, I don't think he's thinking too much of about his effort on the court, right? Like that's not going to be his priority at that point to help Curry. Draymond, I mean,
Yeah.
self-explanatory. He's too busy punching, kicking, screaming than actually playing basketball. And and then you have Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins is on and off. He's in and out. You can never really trust him to be. He's very streaky. Kuminga's having problems with the team. They were ready to move him, and now they're not going to move him. So he's not getting along with Steve Kerr. Steve's not getting along with him. They're talking about each other in post conferences and pressers and stuff. So it's such a it's again, I think it's a locker room issue, and the Warriors are ready to pick a direction. I have a lot of Warriors friends, and they're like, we're at the same spot, but now they're jealous because we made a move. So they're like, we can't. They're like, we're in all of you because now it's our turn to finally make that move and be like, you know what? I think the dynasty is over. Let's finally turn the chapter and build up again because Curry, unfortunately, is not going to win you anything alone in that Western Conference.
Yeah, I mean, it's really weird how like, different players kind of, they age at different times, right? And I
Yeah.
think I also too, for Draymond's like kicking and screaming, I also think that's because he subconsciously or consciously knows that he isn't the player he once was and is overcompensating with his quote unquote aggressiveness. And then that's why it went too far. That's my personal
100%.
theory.
Oh,
You know, I think
100%.
that's
I
why the
think he's
Jordan Poole incident happened, because Jordan Poole was calling him out on not being the player that he was, and you know, and so on and so on.
100%.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if the Warriors are gonna have the guts to be like the Celtics when they traded Chris Paul, or sorry, Paul Pierce. Apologies. You know what I mean? Like that's like the only comparable that I have. Like Paul Pierce didn't retire a Celtic, and that's kind of wild, you know?
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if they're gonna have the guts to do that. Um, Chris Paul's contract is huge, and then outside of the big three, and then everybody else's contract is so small, like so tiny and good that like I actually think that like not wanting to trade Jonathan Kuminga has more to do with the fact that he's on a really good contract than it is to
Yeah,
do
makes
with
sense.
like his upside or anything like that. So I just think like they're really at a at a rock and hard place. And I hope they've been filming that Last Dance doc this year. I hope they've been filming it, because this is it. This is it. And
I
it's
hope
sad.
they're
I
ready to
actually
pull the
want to
plug,
get
though.
a ticket to see the Warriors when they're in town. They're in town in
Yeah.
March, because I actually think this might be the last time.
Do you think Steph stays on the team, though, or do you think Steph goes elsewhere to get another chip?
He would only leave if he asked to leave.
Oh,
I don't
that's true.
I don't think they would ever trade him. I mean, I think the three of them will, certainly Steph, but I think the three of them will have statues outside the arena, you know, when it's all said and done. And maybe even Steve Kerr. I don't know if coaches get statues or not, but like I think that's the case. And yeah, I think Steve Kerr would have to be like, or sorry, Steph Curry would have to be like, I
I
I
wanna
want
get
to
out of
be
here.
I want to be traded. Like, please trade me so I can win somewhere one
And
last
I
time.
wonder if he would have that thought, like, if he sees this team go younger and if he sees them, start to lose and start to maybe try to go in the draft, like, get a lottery pick and do whatever, like, I wonder if that point he's like, "I'm old enough to be happy with what I've got. I have a ton of championships, a ton of awards, like, I've got all these brand deals, like, I'm okay to just babysit now and, like, ride my life out in San Fran with my wife and my kids?" Or are you like, okay, enjoy your team, but I still want to win a couple. And then does he go elsewhere?
Mm.
And then I mean, it's Curry. Curry is never gonna fall off. Curry's always gonna be Curry. He's always gonna be a threat, no matter how old he is. I think, especially from the perimeter, knowing who Curry is. So I'm like, I wonder if he would like. I wonder what his chapter is, because I think Warriors have for them. It's very clear that Clay would be gone, Draymond would be gone. Like that core would just be kind of disbandled. But the only person that kind of takes the reins of their own future there is going to be Curry, as you said. And I just wonder what he would want to do at that point.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
don't
it's
know.
fascinating. I have no idea what he would do. They all seem pretty loyal to one another, you know,
Yeah,
especially in light of all the Draymond stuff. Like, they all seem incredibly loyal, to each other, because I think there's a lot of reasons to have animosity towards Draymond, but they don't
I
seem to.
every time he goes and like he holds somebody in a chokehold, he the next day they're dapping up, they're all good. I'm like, damn, they've loyalty. That's what I want to see. They're really good at it. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. And then also like it's the same place that draft. Like he's played there his whole life. So I think it would just be weird having to leave that just for a couple extra years at the end, you
I
know?
wouldn't be surprised if they just rode this whole thing into the ground. I mean, they're already almost there. I think they
Yeah.
might just ride it into the ground and then rebuild from the very beginning. I know that would hurt their season ticket holders and stuff. Like, San Francisco's a really expensive place.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just don't, I'd be shocked if it happened any other way. But you're right. Maybe they will make a trade deadline move, and maybe we'll see one of those big three move on, and that would be pretty wild. All right, let's move on here. I want to talk a little bit, usually we do NBA and then we do Raptors homer moment stuff, but it's all been a blur. So this is technically a Raptors homer moment, even though it was absolutely the first half hour of this podcast. Speaking of trade rumors, because that is all the rage at this time of year, always is. We mentioned it earlier. Kyle Lowry is rumored to be on the trading block from the Miami Heat. He has had a decline in numbers, although his IQ remains very high. Do you think Kyle could be a difference maker on another team, or is this the moment he comes back home to be a Raptor before he retires? Also, he's going to be looking around and like Boucher and Jakob Poeltl are like the only people he knows at this point. Like the whole I'm going to retire as a Raptor sentiment does feel a little different now. But
I was just thinking, I'm like, imagine tonight too. Like DeMar's coming. DeMar's not going to know a single person. Not one person. Not even Boucher, because Boucher came here after DeMar.
You remember when DeMar dunked on Boucher so hard, his soul looked like it left his body?
Yeah. Oh every time DeMar did it to us, I'm like, you get him. I'm like, you get us. We deserve it. It's fine.
And his daughter. And his daughter.
Oh.
Is she at the game?
Anytime it's done, I'm like, it's okay. They deserve it. But yeah, for Lowry, you know what? I think you mentioned it. I think his IQ is always going to be there. I think he would serve as a very good vet on a team, on a young team, maybe on a team that's building. I could even kind of like how they use Fred VanVleet with the Rockets, but Fred VanVleet's obviously not the same age as Lowry. Yeah, but I think in terms of the same kind of leadership qualities that FVV has, so does Lowry. They kind of got him off Lowry anyway. So I see him in that scenario. I see him helping out the point guards. I see him kind of running the offense and helping out with that. I don't see him going to a contender. I don't see a contender taking him on at
maybe
this point
like
either.
The only like the closest contending team I think would be like, this is in line with what you're saying, would be like OKC. Like if OKC was like, we want someone who's won a championship on our bench.
Oh, that would actually be a freaking amazing.
That would be amazing. And then they have a billion picks. Like they have so many different things that they could trade. I only thought of it just now as you were saying it. It's like, oh,
you just blew my mind, Catherine. No,
you helped me blow each other's minds. Yeah, that would be perfect.
We came together in this moment. No, because you're right. And in that, like, he doesn't have to do much. All he has to do is guide Shea and just build on that IQ that she is already such a disciplined player. It's crazy to me that he's that young and he's so like aware of his body, aware of every move that he makes on the court is so intentional. And just imagine that being kind of looked over by Lowry, who we know has always been the engine of any team that he's been on in his prime, that he's been the facilitator and the anchor of the offense. So pairing those two together. And then you get Shea on the Raptors a little bit later because, now he can come over. Now he's all molded into be the perfect guy. He was trained by Kyle Lowry. That way, Kyle Lowry doesn't have to retire with us. He can just go and build on Shea and then retire with OKC, no problem, do what you got to do. But then put it into Shea's head to come back to Toronto. And then, bada bing, bada boom, we're championships.
Love it. I agree. He probably has one more stop before he signs his 10-day with us. In this, okay, let's just do one more topic here before we wrap it up. With the Raptors, officially in the BBQ era, it is a mild BBQ, at least for now. I don't know if anyone else is going to be nicknamed spicy or hot sauce or whatever the hell. But in this current BBQ era, and with the possibility that the Raptors could make more moves before the trade deadline, what types of moves would you like to see this team make?
Great question. I look at this team now and I think the one thing that we're missing, and I look around the league itself, and I think this is like the era of like the superstar big everywhere. You got Jokic, you got Embiid, you have who am I missing? Sorry, you have Giannis. Like you have all these big guys who are
Jokic, Chet, Wemby,
Chet. Well, yeah, like even LeBron, I would kind of say he's bigger as well. So all these like big guys in the paint just demanding the presence, like that's not only are you going up against them, but you're defending them. And when I look at the Raptors, I think we have the offense now, well, pretty decently, right? Especially after last night, like 8 threes by Gary Trent after, but like 2 the other night, fantastic. But I'm looking at them and I'm like, I think offensively we can we could hold our own, especially maybe months from now when we've gelled together, have more chemistry. I think we can hold our own. I'm worried defensively, but especially defensively
Mm,
now that you've lost OG and you've lost Pascal Siakam, who were your two best defenders on this team. I'm worried about them being able to hold guys like Embiid and Giannis and Jokic and Luka, like to a certain level of points. And I think again with guys like Luka and Curry and Shea, who are point guards, you can double them, you can triple them, you can kind of make their life hell. But what can you do for guys like Embiid and Jokic and Giannis? And when I think about that, I think we just don't have the the body power to take them on. And I get this is when I get pissed at the front office because I think about Jakob Poeltl and I think about the first round pick and I think about what we did to get him here. And I'm just like, I don't think he should have been the future of our center. Like at no point did that make any sense to me, especially the way the NBA is moving. Like he's a great player, but Jakob Poeltl is not the top 10 center that we were promised. He's not going to be the
right.
one to hold back Jokic and Giannis and everybody else. Like he's just not going to be that threat. And I think we need a really proper center who can also maximize guys like, Scotty and RJ and Emmanuel, especially IQ and Scotty, who are so good at passing that I think as long as they have a big guy in the paint, they can pass that to him. Their assist numbers goes up, his points go up. We were all happy. But I think the Raptors really need to look into that center position kind of deeply now. That to me is like the glaring hole that just is the only one that I really want to be fixed.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and I don't know if that's gonna happen, before the trade deadline or if it's something that's gonna happen in the draft or next year, but I agree. I think that, like, finding that young, versatile big is probably going to be the key to being a contender, for at least the next 5 to 10 years, and I think everybody wants that, quote, unquote, "unicorn type player," but because there are so many and, I guess Anthony Davis to some degree is also in that conversation, just as we
Yeah.
were naming them off. Like, yeah, I agree. Finding that guy would be, that's who we want, whether he's, like I said, a diamond in the rough, like deeper in the draft, or if there's like a future prospect, like a Wemby that's worth tanking for. But yeah, I think we need to find that person. I agree. And I think all of us agree that the Jakob Poeltl trade, from the moment it happened, it felt weird. It
I
never
was
made
being
sense.
gaslit the second it happened. They were like, "No, I think it works,
Well,
and I
you were
think it's
also
gonna be
gaslit today at Masai's presser because he said
fine."
trading a first round pick for a starting center is always a good idea. I'm paraphrasing, but he did more or less say that. But I wouldn't be surprised if Jakob was traded. So, maybe we get this top 6 pick back. Who
Yeah,
knows? Right?
that's
Like
true.
getting this top 6 protected pack back is in the cards. It is
Mhm.
in the realm of possibility here. So we'll have to see what happens with that. But yeah, I think finding that great center would be the next move to being able to elevate this young core to the next level. But I do feel hopeful and optimistic for the Raptors future for sure at this point.
You know what?
Um
Because I was thinking it might be like the salt and pepper era. I was like, I don't know if we're gonna be even getting any seasoning anywhere here. But after last night, I'm like, you know what? We could be jerk chicken. I don't know. We might be heading up there. We might be Chipotle. I don't know.
There's
I
different
thought fried
kinds of
chicken was
barbecue
great.
out there, yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, you know what? Maybe we're coming around. Like we could be, super spicy in a couple months, a couple years. I don't know. But right now, my expectations were so low that I was like, there's like we're not doing anything. I was like, we're just gonna be straight up, just hoping for not an embarrassing loss. And then after watching them the first half and watching them maintain that throughout the game, I was shocked. Then again, I'm gonna hold it together, see what happens tonight. It's very small
Yeah.
sample
I
size.
mean,
Don't know
maybe there
anything
was a
yet, but
sense of, like, relief with this team after the Siakam trade. I'm
yeah.
not sure. Um,
I
yeah,
saw tweets too. They were joking around. They were like, maybe now these guys are just scared to be traded, so they finally turn it on. They're
well, they
like,
should be
"Here's a
today
threat,
after
could you
Masai
please?"
said the word definitely in
Yeah,
terms of, like, more moves. Like, oh my
good.
god.
Light that fire.
Yeah, yeah. Go to all the good restaurants now. Anyway, let's move on to our Raptors Homer moment here. Or sorry, not our Homer moment, our hottie highlight of the week. I'm getting all my segments mixed up today. I decided that this week's Hottie highlight should go to Pascal Siakam. As we say bye and truly an end of an era here. I want to ask you, Nor, what is your favorite Pascal moment?
Oh, there's so many. You know what? I don't think I have there's so many moments. There's like, him
Yes.
winning the championship, his personality, everything. But I think one thing that I will, and this is, I went through this today. I was filming a video on Scotty Barnes and Pascal Siakam and him getting traded and everything. And I was looking for a Scotty Barnes image. I typed in on Google Scotty Barnes smiling just because I wanted to get like a nice one of him. And I see it, and I see that every single picture he's smiling in, he's with Pascal Siakam. Or
Aw.
Milojević or Pascal Siakam. There's no picture of him alone where he's smiling. He's just, he's not feeling it.
He never smiles alone.
Never. And even prior to him getting drafted, we knew him to be this like TikTok smiley, happy-go-lucky guy. And the second he got here was just like, Grim Reaper, I'm here to do business and that's it. And then whenever I look it up, I'm like, okay, Scotty Barnes smiling. Does he smile? And every picture that I see, because I was getting mad. I'm like, I can't crop them out, Scotty. Like, smile on your own. But it's like every single one, it's Pascal with him. And to me, that just shows that it reminds me of who Pascal was. Just loud, happy, personable, funny guy running around calling everybody beloved, making jokes. I remember him from the bench mob era. And in the bench mob era, he was the loudest, he was the funniest.
Yes.
I think he had the best vibes, and he was the heart of that bench mob. He kept them all together. He was friends with every single one of them. And even to this day, I think it's just this personality that I don't know him. I've never met him, but I can tell just from watching it at home and just seeing his personality that he makes everyone around him happier. And I'm just gonna miss that. Like watching him on screen and just like really genuinely liking a player for who they are. I'm not gonna stop doing that now, but it's just having that guy on my team. I think that was my favorite part of Pascal Siakam. Being proud of having him on my team.
Aw. I agree. I think for me, obviously, like the championship, that just goes without saying. And like, him hitting that last shot, but also that game one in the finals where he just went off. Incredible stuff. I also really love when he was at the NBA store in New York and he found out that he made the All-Star team. Because that moment really, really felt like a dream come true. And it was really sweet. And also, when you think about his story and how like he was going to become a pastor and like, then he started playing basketball and, we all know like he, drafted late, worked his way through the G League, bench mob, starter, all-star, all NBA, most improved player. I really feel like Pascal kind of embodies why people love sports and why people watch
100%.
sports, because it's like we're seeing people achieve, the seemingly impossible. And I think that's what makes him really special. And I'll always remember him for that. And, just very grateful for him to have been a part of our organization.
I think if there's any screenwriters out there, this is one of the best stories. And it's a real
I'm a
life
screenwriter.
Story. Like Catherine.
I'm not just saying I'm a professional screenwriter outside of this podcast.
Because you will be now after this one. Just look at his life. I'm like, this is like an Oscar award winning movie.
It's true. Casting
right?
Pascal would be hard. The casting's not gonna be easy.
Oh yeah, I mean,
but you're right. His story could very well be a movie. You're absolutely right.
It's so inspirational. Like if you look at his life at 18 years old in Cameroon, had never picked up a basketball to 10 years later now, and G League champion, MVP, NBA champion, All-Star, MIP, NBA, all defensive team, like all these things that he's able to do. And you're just like 10 years before this, he was just sitting in Cameroon like another guy.
Yeah.
And now he is doing, and his peers were growing up at 1 year old touching basketballs. They knew what they were meant to do their whole life, and he had no idea until the age of 18. So remarkable. Will always be a Pascal Siakam fan.
Yes, absolutely. With that, we should wrap it up here. Nora, thank you so much for joining me. What a fun episode. What a wild, crazy journey we've been on in these last few days. Let us know what you're up to and where people can find you on the internets.
Yeah, I'm everywhere. I'm on Twitter at Nora Zainab. It's just still right here. But you can mute me. You don't have to follow me. You can do whatever you want. I
You're an
tweet.
excellent follow, by the way. Yes.
Thank you. I tweet and it might get annoying, so I'm gonna preface with that. But yeah, I anything Raptors, NBA, you know where to find me, just at my Twitter. So I appreciate
Yes.
that. But thanks so much for having me, Catherine. I want you to go enjoy your McFlurry now. It's
Yeah,
probably
I
soup at
gotta.
this
It's
point, isn't
we're
it?
a little melty right now, but there's some texture. I might put this in the freezer for like half an hour and
Ooh, that'll
then
be nice.
and then eat it. Just want to let everybody know this is just kind of like a personal programming sort of, not programming, just a note. It's so funny that you mentioned like, oh, if there's any screenwriters out there, and I'm like, I'm one. I've written on a show called Late Bloomer, and it's coming out
Ooh,
well, I guess when this is out today, January 19th on Crave. Check it out. I'm really proud of this show. It stars YouTube's Just Rain. He goes by Just Meet Raina. That's his real name. And he wrote a show that's like loosely based on his life. And I'm really proud of it. It's a comedy, but it has some slight dramedy sort of notes to it. And Late
what?
Bloomer, yes, Late Bloomer on Crave. There's pictures on my
Amazing.
Instagram of the premiere that I got to go to on Monday, which was really fun. I need to make a bigger post about it. I'm really bad at promoting myself, but just everyone needs to watch Late Bloomer. I need you all to support this show so we can continue making like this quality of content in Canada. So
Catherine, put
it's
this on
on.
X, please,
I need
immediately.
to. I need to put this on X. I do.
You
I
do.
do.
That's so amazing.
Yeah.
Just Rain, Crave. You're like, oh, I'm not a professional. Excuse me. You could be the one writing Siakam's script tonight. Are you
I could
joking?
be. I could be. I should pitch it to his people.
You should.
Yeah, yeah. Anyways, yeah, Late Bloomer, it's
That's
out.
awesome.
Please watch, please enjoy. Thank you everyone for tuning into the podcast as always. And I will be back next week. Maybe a little less emotional, definitely with less ice cream. And hope you all enjoy your week. Okay, take care. Bye.